Welcome everyone to our weekly podcast of Dance with the Soul. And what Natasha and I do every week is we talk about human problems from the perspective, from a spiritual perspective. Um, because as you'll find out, that's probably the best perspective to look at things because there's more information and you get more answers to the why things are happening to you in your life. Uh, my name is Regan Forsten. I'm a member of the Newton Institute, and I specialize in research into the afterlife. I'm one of about 230 uh, uh, certified practitioners, and we're scattered around in 46 countries. And for the last 50 years, we've been doing research into what happens when a person passes away, where they go, and what they do while they're there until they decide to come back again or not to decide to come back again. And we've helped about 65,000 people now to go into a trance. It's something most people can achieve. And from there, it seems like God has allowed us to visit where you go, where you're going to go when you pass away. And usually people spend a couple hours there and asking questions, getting answered to things like what is their life's mission? Why did they decide to be born? Why did they choose the parents? Why did they choose different people in their life's play? And they come back transformed in a sense. Anyway, my website's visittheafterlife.com, and there's videos on there. There's a video on there of a young lady going through the process, and there's a lot of information on the latest research being done on reincarnation, and lots of other good videos on there. Also, I'm a traditional therapist too. I help a lot of people through Zoom or in person with things like stress, depression, fears, and phobia, especially post-traumatic stress, and try to help people to heal and to change their lives, and also work as a life coach, just like Natasha does. So Natasha, why don't you tell everybody what you do a little bit out there?
So I am a psychic medium. I'm very intuitive in my life. I've been intuitive my whole life. And that's something that has helped me navigate through being an observer of many different facets. And when I have looked at myself, I came into this world knowing about my past lives. It's just something I didn't necessarily dream about them. They were just something that I walked in between those worlds real easily. And one of my knowings was me walking out of, like, in the Midwest, like there was a cave. Our house was kind of like in a hill because it got so warm, and it was easier to dig into the hill and just make a small little house with a door. And I walk out with my young child, and there's four Native Americans on their horses. And my man went away to buy cows. And so as I grew up, I processed through what came after that knowing. Because when I was young, that was something that I did. And so, that's how I go into knowing other people's past lives and doing what Regan does. But instead of you going through it, it's me helping you go through it and seeing it and knowing it. And many times what I love about Regan is that he sent me a couple of clients after they've had sessions with him, because I can give an understanding of what was that message. And I was always grateful for that, to give a cleaner idea and with life going forward and moving forward. So today we were going to talk about why do certain people irritate us? And, Regan mentioned about the workforce because we have a guest on today. And I didn't mention that because it was kind of a last minute thing. And I didn't get all the information. So it was hard for me to put on the information. So after the show, you will get the information that Ashton, is it? Is that how you
Ashton.
say it?
Yeah, Ashton. Mm-hmm.
I apologize, Ashton. I have a dyslexic thing about life and words and especially names. So I apologize. And it helps people getting jobs through the workforce, from what I understand. And that's why
I think so. We'll find out in a minute.
Yeah, exactly. So with that there's a lot of this dance about why are people so much triggering us in our lives? Well, there's so many times it's a past life that it's like, well, did you kill me in a past life? And maybe maybe me being a male in a past life, did I do harm to that person or did they do harm to me? And there's just this conflict, or is it something that we have to work out contractual every lifetime? That there's something a banter back and forth that we do, and I actually saw that with somebody saying, why does this person irritate me? And it's like, and it's somebody just walks in their life for just like, let's say a month and then walks out. And I say, this is something you've been doing for years. And it's up to you to stop that contract. And I told her a little bit how to do it. And so there's just these things that we do with life. And so let's bring on our guest because it's time for us to set forth this conversation. So
Yeah.
Regan, would you like to introduce our guest?
Okay. Yeah. Ashton is someone I know, family member. Hi,
Hi.
Ashton. And I've always been impressed with her. She came out all the way from Ohio out here to be by family and for a good job opportunity. And it took her a while to kind of get settled to find the right job. But I was amazed at how she's a go-getter, like, yeah, how she went from one place that didn't quite fit to another. And I think now, Ashton, I was thinking of this now. Don't you help a company find employees? Is that what you do?
You're close. So I actually hire traveling clinicians to
Okay.
do travel assignments in hospitals. So the majority of my company hires nurses, but I actually work for an allied team that does everything that's not a nurse or a doctor. So surge tech, rad tech, ultrasound,
Wow.
respiratory therapy, physical therapy, pretty much anything not a nurse or a doctor in a hospital I staff.
So it's been pretty crazy recently with
Oh
COVID
yeah.
and everything, hasn't it?
So
I mean,
crazy. The market
because
is
of,
up and down, up and down.
yeah, because some
Mhm.
people just getting burned out and leaving, and then you got to replace them, and
Yep.
wow, I can imagine would you say is it a high stress job, or is
Oh
it,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but what's yeah, and how do you vet these people I mean, is there a way of it seems like in a workplace 90% of the people are just awesome, but there's
Yeah.
that 10% that raise hell,
Uh-huh.
that
Uh-huh.
nobody likes, and they push everybody's buttons. And is there a way when you're vetting them that you kind of try to weed out those kind of people, or can you do you even know until you hire them?
I mean, I'd say it's a good 50-50 mix. Like usually off a first conversation, I can pick up on some red flags, if they've agency hopped or facility hopped a lot. Those are kind of some red flags. And then depending on what modality they are, whether, they're a respiratory therapist or they're a surge tech, I will have them do a skills check to give me an idea as to how they would rate themselves on the competency of their modality. And obviously people who just give themselves the top of the top score, red flag, right? You're not being
Yeah.
very truthful.
Nobody's perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not
Exactly.
um,
Mhm.
a bit antiquated of a process, but I definitely still rely on references. I think the majority of the medical industry is starting to kind of move away from references in
I mean,
2022.
because they just need people, and so they go, hey, just hire them and see what happens.
Um, Not so much. It's just because oftentimes if people are giving somebody as a reference, it's probably somebody that they have some sort of personal rapport with, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes it's not usually that great of an indicator as to what their work ethic is, because so very rarely will I get a bad reference check, right? Because people aren't going to give me the name and number of
Right.
somebody
Yeah.
who they know isn't going to be forthcoming with any type of
Yeah.
negative attributes associated with their work ethic.
So yeah, even though they list a lot of references, that can't always mean that they're as perfect as all these references
Right.
are, then, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny because I have a nephew that has been doing what he's a nurse,
Oh, okay.
and he's been going. He's actually he just finished a stint in California, actually,
Oh, cool.
and he's home based is Florida, but him and used to be his girlfriend would hop. Like they were up here in Seattle for a while,
Mhm.
and they were able to tour this area, and they enjoyed having these different places to get different experiences.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, like his ex-girlfriend, or they're on a trip right now, so I don't know where it's going to go with that. But they but she worked up at Harborview, and Harborview up here is one of those hospitals that it's, you know, you get a someone who's on the streets walking in, or you get a fly-in who has been in a major car wreck, and so
Mhm.
you can get, you know, yin to yang.
Yeah.
And what she said was, it was interesting. It took her about 3 weeks to learn the atmosphere,
Mhm.
because it was almost like walking into an island, because it's an older hospital, so it ran its own way. How do
Mhm.
you couldn't get a reference on that, because it's such a unique experience, she said, that
Mhm.
she would go back in a heartbeat,
Mhm.
even though she hated it, you know, because it was one of those things where it was so enlightening on being there, you
Mhm.
know, but at the same time, it was one of the hardest things she ever did.
Yeah.
You can't do a reference on something like that, because if
Mhm.
how do you say that somebody did a great job when it's such a unique experience?
Right. Right.
Because they could have failed in that experience and be great in other experiences.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
So,
So
some of the questions I ask when I'm doing a reference check is like, I ask about their adaptability, right? Because some instances like you just described would come up, you know. So
mhm.
just getting a good idea, like, do they have adaptability with the unit? Do they have adaptability with the staff? What about their professionalism, or are they punctual? So sometimes I'll try to get away from like the clinical questions and ask more character type questions.
Mhm. Well, and I think that's the thing that we forget about, coming back to the conversation about getting along with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that, I mean, and we can weave in what you're talking about so easily in this navigation of how do we get along with people, because sometimes those basics that you just mentioned, are you punctual? You know, how do
Mm-hmm.
you interact with change? How do
Mm-hmm.
you do, that's not always a personal skill that everybody has. And if
Absolutely.
you're one that can adapt to change so easily, and you're with somebody who is like rigid like a board,
Mhm.
those two don't work out very well sometimes.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's,
Don't
go
I?
ahead.
yeah. Well, Ashton, like in your other jobs, have you ever had somebody you worked with that was just you just hated going into work because that person was going to be there because they were either like bullies to you
I
or
have it. I have that right now.
you do? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I
Well,
mean,
don't.
because this job, it's very competitive in this office, right? We all want to have hired the most people. We all want to have booked the most hours, so to speak. I don't want to get too technical and get anybody confused, but it's very competitive, and sometimes there will be three recruiters with, you know, different levels of accomplishment, if you will.
Mhm.
Like, so I'm what FlexCare calls an executive recruiter. But then there's recruiters in training, and I don't have any, I guess, leeway over somebody that's in training or somebody who's a senior who's a couple steps below me. We could all three, a recruiter in training, a senior recruiter, an executive recruiter, we could all submit a candidate to the same job. We could all submit the same physical therapist for the same job at the same hospital. And
Oh,
me and my candidate aren't going to get any preferential treatment over the other two, even though I have more experience, I have a bigger desk, I
Mhm.
have the better rapport with the account managers fishing for these jobs for us. It's going to come down to the clinician. Who has the most experience? Who can start the earliest? Who's requesting the least amount of time off? You know, things like that. It comes down to the candidates are the ones truly in competition for that job. But sometimes recruiters forget that. And, you know, some people get a little spicy, and you know me, Regan, I'm the first one. I bring the spice everywhere I go. I don't know a stranger. Like, I'll talk to anyone about anything at any time.
yeah.
Um, But here, you know, people really get competitive and get angry if you got the offer and that was the only job that their clinician wanted. Well, there's 100 more in the system. Do a better
Yeah.
job selling them on another one.
Mhm.
So feathers get ruffled, but you know, for me, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to make a nice paycheck and go home and live my life. So
Yeah.
I do my best to, you know, stay out of all of that mix. But yeah, it is hard coming to work with people where you know animosity exists
Yeah.
and you want to do everything you can to stay out of it. But I mean, we're all human. Like, it takes one slick comment from this person at the exact wrong time for you. Boom, you're bought into something you said you weren't going to be a part of.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, from a spiritual perspective, we, Natasha and I have found in our research and everything that, you know, because some people think they only think of relationships, they think of their primary relationship, like being their significant other is having, you know, have to deal with problems. But when you think about it, you spend sometimes more time with people in your workplace than you do with your spouse, you know. So is always this chance for bad relationships and good relationships at work, you know,
Yeah.
because you meet some really nice people and some people that you go, boy, I'm glad they're not a family member, but in a sense they're like your work family, you know. So I'm sure with, you know, you know as well as all of us that have had many jobs that it's quite a learning experience to have to be in a job that you like, but to have to deal with the negative that comes up from either the people you work with or the people you have to deal with, you know, like people in customer relations, you know, they get the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, in that way. So what we found in the research is when people are in trance and they go to the afterlife and they're asking questions and getting answers to a lot of things, they kind of a lot of times find out that most people that pop up in their life are kind of there for a reason. It's almost like a play, like everybody's down here in a play and they've chosen all the characters, the ones to be in act 1 and act 2 and act 3 and act 4. And sometimes these characters are just little bit players, you know, that come in to try to poke in some way, to try to test to see how your compassion or to test you. Maybe there's a skill that that you need to learn that you haven't learned, and they come and they mirror to you your faults, and then people want to, you know. So there's so many reasons. I'll give an example of a client I had who was in the medical profession, and she worked in this clinic where 3 doctors rotated, and one of the 3 doctors, for some reason, and she felt through nothing that she did at all, he would be terribly emotionally cruel to her. He would say awful things to her. He would pull her aside when no one else was looking and say, "You're a horrible nurse. You know, you should retire and get out of here because you really are bad." You know, and this is and there was all this pressure to perform instead of taking care of the client. You know, like, come on, we need to move them through here quick. And it was so much so that when she would sit in her car before work, she would go into a panic attack because she just knew when she went in that this person was going to be so horrible to her. So here's what happened. She went deep into trance, like most people can do really easily. She found herself in the afterlife, and there was a council there. And we asked the council, we said, well, we have some questions that she'd like answers to. And they said, okay, what's your questions? And she said, this doctor at work is so horribly cruel to me. I just can't stand the guy. I won't tell his name, but she even says his name and everything. And she asked the council, why is he so mean to me? I have done nothing to this man. And they said, this elder in the afterlife said one thing to her. He said, you were very cruel to him in another lifetime. And that's all they said. And when she heard that, she's in trance and her face goes, oh, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that, you know? And so when we were done with the session, there was a whole lot of other things that happened, but we talked about that. And she says, Regan, I just don't want to hear that. You know, I've not done anything to this lifetime or whatever. So she didn't. A few months later, I talked to her and I said, well, what's going on now? And she says, he stopped being mean to me, you know? So she didn't say anything to him. She didn't I think so. I think it was something in her awareness or her energy must have changed that somehow he picked up on it. There was this healing that went on. So, uh, sometimes these people that are bad are only, even in relationships, when your partner shows you something that you want to punch him for, and then you really think about it and you realize that he saw a weakness in your armor, and it was something that you need to learn. So that's just one perspective sometimes. So there, um, here's a spiritual exercise, Ashton. You can even try this and let me know if it works.
Okay.
When you have these people, all this competitiveness, and you have someone that's kind of throwing darts at you a little bit, as you're going through it, just give this a try. Inwardly, as the darts are coming towards you, just send them back love. Just say, I love you, I love you, I love you. I give you unconditional love. And you could also say, I love you, thank you, please forgive me, I'm sorry. Those are 4 things that cover anything that could be anything you're doing. That's what they call ho'oponopono. And it's something that it's a crazy thing. We'll have to do a session on sometime. Natasha knows about it too. But
Yeah.
it covers all the different categories of why the universe sent you this. It's like you just say, I love you, thank you, please forgive me, I'm sorry. Because maybe in another lifetime, maybe there was some dart throwing by both of you, and
Right.
you get the choice to now deflect all that and stop the going back and forth by just allowing it to pass over you. By sending them love instead.
And that's one thing that I do too is that Sue has a comment that she put out, and I'm going to do that in just a second here.
Okay.
But I work in an elementary school during the morning time. It's the calling that I do. I'm very dyslexic, and so I try to help kids read and feel better about themselves because of the scenario that goes in the mind with those. And when I'm on the playground, a lot of kids come up and they go, "What?" And then the other kid's going, "Ah!" And I said, "Stop. All you have to do, or can use whatever started this, somebody has to stop. Somebody has to stop." And then I say, we don't have to be friends, but we can be friendly.
Right.
And a lot of times when that happens, did you feel my energy in that? So I put the intention of healing in this moment between these two people. Now, does that heal everything? No, it doesn't. It doesn't heal everything. And no, it doesn't fix everything, because sometimes they like the drama and they like stirring the pot. They're just pots. I call them pot stirrers. They like to stir the pot. And there's people like that just love to stir the pot. But the one thing, though, as I'm standing there, I'm asking the question for me. What is this here to teach me? What is this here to teach me? And when I do that, it's teaching me to see 2 perspectives as equal. 2 perspectives as equal, because 2 perspectives, there's nothing wrong with either one. Yet it's finding that middle in the middle. And that's what I do when I'm standing there. I try to stand in the middle and hear each one equally. And that doesn't always heal things, but every time I've been up against somebody who causes conflict, what is this here to teach me? And I'm asking for healing on this. Because I can tell you that me walking into the school thinking this is going to be terrible energy today, like tomorrow, it's 2/22/22, right? And so with that the energy at school can be wonky as all get out. But if I'm anticipating that, I'm calling that energy in. So me saying, okay, I attune to the energies of the now tomorrow. I'm going to attune to the energies so that I can be my greater self, so I can ride on the ride. Because as I walked outside today, I saw a hawk being traced by 4 crows. So seeing the greater vision, seeing the greater vision with the magic, the dark magic that crows are. They represent dark magic. They're very smart birds. And so with that, it's kind of interesting how the universe works with us and how to negotiate working with other people. And we can always, always ask when there's somebody, we don't have to know about past lives, but we can always walk in and be with someone and go, okay, there's a conflict. I'm asking for whatever happened to us. Whatever happened to us. And you have the bigger picture. It could have been, you can have a past life if you believe in that. You can just say, whatever happened to us, whenever it happened to us, I'm asking for healing because I would love peace between us. I would love compassion. I would love, just being able to be friendly together. And doing that interaction helps us when we walk into a job, because if we're going to walk into a job always thinking it's a competition, it's always going to be a competition.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there's competition in life, but do I have to be in competition with the competition that already is there?
Mm-hmm.
Or can I be in the flow of the competition that's already there?
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear the difference?
Oh yeah, I think I had to establish with myself some time ago. I'm not in competition with anybody here aside from myself. I want to be better than what I was yesterday, better than what I was last month, last
That's
year,
great.
so on and
Yes.
so forth. So I really try to remember that when stuff's heating up out there on what we call the sales floor and people are starting to throw jabs here, throw darts there, and I'm like, I'm just here to make more money than I did last month.
Mm-hmm. And shifting that perspective of what success is. I was trying to find the word there. Sorry about that. What that word success is. Yes, it's about making the money. Yes, it's also how can I uplift the floor that's in competition
Mm-hmm.
by being the elder, because you're the executive person on this. So be the elder. How do elders do it? By showing,
Mm-hmm.
by doing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that if they're saying something, just go, sorry, not part of this, and walking away.
Mm-hmm.
Diffuses a lot of things. Now, if they choose to learn that, that's what they do. So I'm going to pop in Sue's question here. Sorry about this covering over you, sweetie.
Oh, you're okay.
So Sue says, why does my husband keep inviting his friend over to escape from his bad relationship? Every month, he's living on my sofa for a few days to a week instead of working on himself and relationship. Do they have a past lives together? Yes.
Can you pick up on that?
Definitely. Okay,
Okay.
so I see actually many lifetimes that your husband and this person has a past life together. And I see them being Celtic together. They had a Celtic relationship, and they were both males on the fight, and they would both get drunk and they could not go home to each other's homes. So they would bail each other out because they were actually little boys in a big boy body. Does that make sense? And then there's also a time where there's one that was the mother and one that was the child. And your husband actually was the mother and he was the child. And the mother was smother mother, wouldn't let this child grow up. And so there's been a couple of lifetimes where this relationship has happened. And you've also been in the mix with that because you sometimes were the police officer that had to take care of the drunks on the floor. Or you were the husband who had to witness the smother mother. And so with that if I can invite for you. Okay, so she also, yep, my husband constantly bails him out, won't let him grow up. Yeah, so, and that's the thing about past lives. Many times we have scenarios that mirror a past life, because that one that I was talking about with the smother mother was more of a recent life than obviously the Celtic times and that kind of thing. With that, it's up to you in how you're going to set up boundaries in yourself. And so, Susan, you know, how you set up that boundary yourself, and you've done a great job. I know Susan quite well. She's been in my life for about 10, 15 years now. So we've talked about this, that she says, thank you, makes sense. That when you have those boundaries, but it's also in a way when he comes over, standing at the door and politely, and you're good at this, so I'm going to let you do this, but this is just language. You put your own language to this, saying, okay, so I know that this is a pattern. You have one night. And
is that Susan setting a boundary with her husband?
Setting a boundary with
saying his friend can come over one night.
One night. And that's the thing, that we as people who are witnessing this scenario of past life, we can put up a boundary, conscious. What is our integrity? What is our intention while we're doing this? So our integrity and our intention while we're doing this is not to bewail, it's not to demean, it's just saying, you know what, this is my house too. This is my house too.
Well, it sounds like Susan has been part of the trio for a long time. And of course, as we always say on the show, nothing changes unless something changes. So they can continue to just keep doing this dance over and over and over. But Susan is becoming more aware now. So if she sets some boundaries, that might start a chain reaction into starting to make a change, so that they don't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over.
And the one thing that I want you to add into, Susan, and this is one of the pieces that Archangel Michael wanted me to pop in here, is that the contract is changing at this moment. The contract between all of us is changing at this moment, and I'm setting up a new contract with us.
Is that because of Susan's awareness?
Susan's awareness. Just like when my husband knows I talk about this, when he was really having a drunk moment, when he was drinking, and he was yelling at me from across the room. I could not say out loud, I'm done with you treating me this way. But in my being, in my spirit being, in my soul being, I said, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. You are done treating me this way. Even though I didn't say it out loud, but I said it in my being, in my head, per se, for a metaphorical idea how to do it. You say it in your head, but you're saying it in your being, and that can shift and change how things are done. Now, I can tell you that within a year or two after me starting to do that, breaking the pattern, breaking the contract of what was, within a year or two, he was sober.
Yeah.
Now, you can do this
overnight.
quickly. It depends on if contracts. Now, Sue, I feel like this contract has been working on its way out. So this contract can end quickly for you if you start doing the pattern of creating the energy in humanness, in the humanist form of saying to your husband, saying, he's got a one night. He can't stay here more than one night.
Yeah.
Or saying things like that, and then saying it to this gentleman too. You only have one night. I really care about you. I know that you're a great guy, but I'm sorry. We have one night. I have things to do one night. And that's okay. So she said something here. Come. There we go. I've been gently showing my husband his friends' unhealthy patterns, that they aren't changing. Yes.
That they aren't changing.
Yeah, they're not changing. But that's the thing, though, is that when somebody doesn't want to change, sometimes we have to be the parent or like me standing in the middle of these two children bickering about saying, stop. Stop. Somebody has to say stop. And that might be you, Sue, in a different way. And I know for me, I tried coming in the gentle door sometimes, and it didn't work. Sometimes you can't show people how to treat them. You have to tell them.
Yeah.
And that might be the hard thing. But sometimes you have to tell them, because I know for my husband, when he was drinking, that I tried showing him for 20 years, and finally I got the words. And the words are what changed it.
Mhm.
Action does make a difference, but sometimes with some people, we have to have words.
Now, Ashton, in your life now, maybe since I talked to you yesterday, you've thought of a question that Natasha might be able to help you with, either relationship issue or job issue, or you might want to know why you're having difficulties in certain areas or something. Why don't you ask Natasha a question, see if she can pick up anything?
Oh, this is a good one. And I literally thought about it all night last night after I talked to you, and I was like, I don't know which direction I want to go, because
Yeah.
I'm kind of all over the place, as
Hmm.
Regan
And that,
said.
yeah, that's the energy. That's the energy that we're in right now. Is everything's kind of like I told somebody. I feel like I'm in a frying pan and I've been thrown up in the air, and not necessarily the fire pan is just hot enough to get things cooking, but not
Yeah.
necessarily to get anything hot. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what's gonna land? And
Yeah.
nothing's quite landing yet. And so,
Yeah. I think probably the most like pressing thing, I think causing me a lot of like angst and worry of the uncertain is that, as you guys can hear, I have a very high demanding, high stress job. Obviously I'm a very money motivated person, but at the end of the day, I went into this industry because I started school to be a nurse and turned into my mother after about a year and a half. I couldn't stand the sight of blood anymore. So I decided to go the administrative route in healthcare because I've always been passionate about it. But at the end of the day, I have people's livelihoods in my hand, right? If something's messed up with their paycheck and they don't get paid, I'm accountable. If they can't pay their bills, I'm accountable. And then that goes forward. They are then the ones on the front lines with people's lives in their actual hands, right?
yes.
So it's a lot more, cut and dry than just me here to make money, which I'm very open and honest about. Like, I am a money driven person. Regan, you got it a bit wrong. I'm from Indiana, not Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
But I did move.
Right.
I moved to California. But I moved here from Indiana because, I've always just wanted more opportunity. I've wanted more for myself. I wanted to be closer to family out here. And now my company has had an office in Charlotte, North Carolina for the last 3 years or so. And they just acquired new real estate where there is now room for my division. And since I'm, one of the top producers, I'm being looked at. Ashton, are you willing to move to Charlotte? And
wow.
I'm through the moon because, I've loved being in California the last 6 years, and I'm ready to settle down with my partner. Hopefully puts a ring on it soon. I want to get the ball rolling, get a house. And the more I research North Carolina, the more I'm like, I think this would be a great move. Now, my partner, he's told me since we met, he wanted to be out of California within 5 years. That was a year and a half ago. So I'm like, how about one more year? And I think he's just getting a little nervous. He didn't think he'd be ready to get up and go that soon. But I'm
feeling this is, I feel like that's a good move for you guys.
Yeah,
it's a good move for you. There's something about the California energy that is shifting that is good for a lot of people, but it's irritating the people that need to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this is going to be your stopping point, but this is your leaping point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so be willing, but what I'm hearing is that within the year of you moving there, be willing to have perspective of doorways. And that's personally for you. Have so that you may still do what you're doing, but you may change to another company that's not so competitional.
Yeah, that'd be great. Even though I like the company, don't get that wrong.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's not wrong. Sometimes it's not what the umbrella is, but sometimes instead of having a black umbrella, we want a flowery umbrella inside. You know what I mean? There's just this moment where things aren't totally perfect for me at this moment, and it's not necessarily that you right now. The universe is giving us personal choices. But what are we thinking and responsible for with those personal choices? How do we make sugar with them, or how do we make spoils with them?
Yeah.
With our thoughts. And so with this is a great opportunity for you to walk in and having an intention of walking in going, I know this is competition. I'm in everybody doing for their better self.
Mhm.
Everybody doing better for their better self. And that might mean that you just bring and put a plant on your desk. Because
Right.
that's how somebody can be their better self, by watching a plant grow.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's green, it's life, it's calmness, it's whatever can work. And the energies of South Carolina are
North Carolina.
no, sorry about that. North
Yeah.
Carolina. When I get into intuitiveness, I get into the region, not necessarily, but the
Yeah.
energies are going to be different there too. The people are going to be different there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that it may be the same company, but a different manager is a different manager.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now me listening to that, let me tell you what I heard. You're saying to her intuition about maybe going back there might be on the right track. But when she goes back there, don't think of it as being the end place of the journey, that there might be other doors because of going back there that will open, and she may shift into something even different. So it may
Yes.
just be a doorway to something else.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's right now, because I can tell you that this is the snapshot that I'm getting of what's going to happen. Now, tomorrow there can be another snapshot. Okay.
Mhm.
But I'm just saying that you are not done with your journey of expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And if this job starts closing you down, look for expansion.
Yeah. I feel very much the opposite right now. I feel very supported by them. You know, they're willing to send me and my partner both on the company's dime out there, because I've never been to Charlotte. He's never been to Charlotte. So I feel like the sky is the limit.
Yeah. And it's not, and it's not necessarily, it's not about the company.
Yeah.
At all. I'm not saying that you need to leave. This is a personal choice. But what I'm saying is that after a year, and it could be even metaphorically, I see something changing in your life. And it might be that you become the whole person over that company, or over that, you know what I mean? That you may become the person who's responsible. I don't know what it looks like. I just get the feeling, and I have the sense intuitively that it's good that you move back there. And after about 9 months to a year, you're going to start knowing something is coming around the corner for you. And it might be just a different position in the company. Because I'm not getting a bad feeling about the company.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just asking you to keep your eyes open.
Yeah, which is really interesting to hear you say that too, because I've made it very clear to members of management since literally day one, all the way until last week when we were talking about sending me to Charlotte, that I have not wanted to be in any type of leadership role. I haven't wanted to be in management.
That's a personal choice.
So I feel like that's kind of what I'm gathering when you're talking about like maybe something changing, like maybe that will change. Maybe I will be open to that once I'm out there and things are different. So like I feel like I'm picking up what you're putting down a little bit.
Yeah, because of the fact that it's different people, it's different energy. You don't know what it's out there. I'm just saying, okay, let's take it off of any labels. It's great that you're going to move there with that company. The company feels great. After about a year, somewhere within the year, something is going to change for you. And it might be that you end up having, you're married and things are opening up for you. I don't know what it looks like. There's just something that's going to open up, that's going to give you other opportunities.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. So, and having that, but the main key is for you is that when you walk into another state, you're crossing how many boundaries of different states that are saying change your energy.
Yeah.
Shifting the perspective. It's okay to be gung-ho. It's okay to be your core self. Don't change who you are, but add on a little bit more. I wonder what this is showing me. Do I need to take a step back to take a step forward? Do I need to take my foot off the gas pedal and be in fifth gear going down the highway on a nice cruise instead of being in third or fourth gear trying to get myself going?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that it's not about change. You're still the car. You're still the driver of the car. Everything's looking the same. But how do you have the perspective of doing your path? Maybe it's time to get yourself into fifth gear and coast down the beautiful highway.
Yeah.
Instead of having your foot on the gas trying to gain speed.
Wow, it's like you know me.
So with that, it is just it is shifting the perspective when you're moving over there. It's good. Life-altering experiences are here to teach us to do a little different, not to change who we are, but to do life just a little different. A little bit different. Okay, so going back to Sue, she put in some so she said that I don't know, I've been gently showing my husband and his friends unhealthy patterns and they aren't changing. And then we talked a little bit about that. And then she says, my home is not a flop house or a frat house. I love that, Sue. Thank you. And then she said, thank you. So it's one of those things that watch, be observant on this shifting of what you're doing. Go into observer mode and see how much you are blessed, how the universe is trying to show you messages. They may show you messages through songs, by animals walking in your path. Maybe it's even a cat walking across your path, or a dog, or like me having the hawk with the crows being chased. See how the universe is trying to help you get a bigger perspective on things.
I feel like it already is too, which
yes.
I'm glad I'm talking to you guys, because I feel like I start talking about this and some people are just completely thrown out of left field with what I'm saying. But like,
I mean, never.
It's all kind of unraveling rather quickly. But just about a month ago, I was really anxious one night, really upset after speaking with our tax lady, because I was hell bent with my partner. We're getting out of downtown. We're getting out of this apartment. We're buying a house this year. We need some land. He's has a side business that like we need land for storing some stuff. And I was like adamant, like we are financially capable of purchasing this year. It's happening, right? Well, then I speak to my tax lady and she's like, you're really going to benefit if you wait until tax time next year to buy a house, based off how drastic my income has changed the last year and a half. And so I'm really just like settling with this that night. Like it felt like somebody just ripped something from me, right? Yep. Like here I am thinking that by the end of this year, we're going to be homeowners in California. We're going to be ready to get married and have a family and blah, 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 blah. And it just like felt like, even though I'm being told not right now, it felt like not at all, right?
And that's what it feels like a lot of times. People say it's this or nothing. Oh no, sometimes we just got to take our foot off the gas pedal.
Yeah, precisely. Because I kid you not, the next day I come to work and I got pulled into the office. And I'm like, you always get a little anxious, like, why is this like high level person pulling me to the side? And it was to tell me, like, to show me the new real estate in Charlotte, to tell me their plans of moving my division to Charlotte. They need people on the East Coast now. And to ask, like, are you willing to get on a plane and go out there, work for a week and get the lay of the land? If so, we would need an answer in a timely fashion. And we want you there, Q1 next year. So I go home and I'm literally crying because I was just so overwhelmed and feeling like, oh my God, like this is exactly why I just found out we're not supposed to buy a house this year, because look at this opportunity. You can get double the house for
exactly.
So I can already see the way it's shaping up where I feel like I'm already seeing these signs. I feel like I'm already being guided there. I just, you know, and for me, I've made the move of a lifetime. I've moved across the entire country. So like that part's not scary for me anymore.
Exactly. So you've practiced to do it. And that's the thing and I even have to remember this in the moment, because sometimes for me, like when the rug gets pulled out from underneath me, my first reaction is grief.
Mm-hmm.
And that means anger, pain, disappointment, crying, happiness. It's a bag of crap is what it is. The first time grief hits us. And it's okay to feel those moments, but having somewhere in our perspective saying, okay, I know the rug is getting put out from underneath me, but this is an opportunity that maybe I don't know where I can fly to yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding the pain and the ache and the disappointment of all that, it's okay to feel that. Give time for that. And then say, where am I going to fly now? What is going to happen to me now? And if we can do that, it gives the universe a chance to have that flip the coin over. The same thing happened with the show. I got an email that somebody wasn't going to produce the show anymore, laid it in my lap. It hurt because we were just talking about changing the name of the show. And then all of a sudden he's not going to be there. What it gave me was the skills to produce my own show. And now I'm redoing my website. I mean, it's like I'm flying.
Yeah.
It hurt. There's sometimes still a little hurt because that's the humanness. But at the same time, though, there's a reason for everything. And we have somebody new, Lisa here. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for coming to our show. So Lisa said, Regan, can you read this for me, please?
Yes, it says, my husband has chronic pain, depression, and anxiety and has not worked in 3 years. Will he ever go back to work? I take care of the whole household. Thank you. Oh, yeah, so
okay.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one. Okay, so Lisa, I'm going to be kind of nicely honest here, if I may, that okay, I'm going to talk this in generality. Many of us have learned to be in the pain of anxiety, the pain of that depression. We slip into that hole, and it's hard for us to get out because we learned to be there. And many a times life gives us benefits for being there. I'll give a quick example. I fell off a stool, tweaked my ankle. About 3 weeks into the ankle hurting, watching my husband cook dinner, watching things get vacuumed without me doing it, I kind of said, I kind of like this. There's a part of me that said, I kind of like this. And I had to say, wait a minute. Do I want to be able to run in a year? Do I want to be able to do the things I want to do next year? Yes. Okay, so that means that since I like him cooking, I'm going to have to figure out how to talk to him about having, honey, I'm tired of cooking 7 days a week, and I saw that you can do a great job. Do you mind cooking once in a while? Instead of being the victim of the ankle and getting the benefit of it, I became empowered and talked to him about having some equality. Okay. Not to dishonor your husband's chronic pain and depression and anxiety. That is life riddling. And there is that stranglehold when we get into that. I've had a child who's dealt with anxiety. I've dealt with anxiety. And if we don't have the tools to get through it, it is struggleable. And I know Regan can help a lot with this, and I can help with this too if he wants to have a session. The thing is, though, somebody has to be willing to do better. And I can tell you that, and I can give an example. My husband, who's been an alcoholic since he was 14, and he got sober when he was mid-40s. He was depression and anxiety and anger. Anger was his go-to. the thing that I had to start the ball rolling differently is I had to start learning to treat him differently. I had to start easing him off of how I treated him. I taught him how to treat me. I taught him how to treat himself in a way because of the patterns we set up. So I had to slowly start working on that. And the one thing I started doing, I started talking to his higher self. When I was laying in bed with him, I would talk with his higher self. Now, I don't know where you're at. I have a feeling you are a little bit in the spiritual realm here. So we all have our human being, and then we have our higher self, our energy of our higher self. And if we talk to that higher self, a lot of times that higher self can talk with the human mind somewhere in the back door, let's say. So when my husband was sleeping, I would talk with his higher self saying, we got to do something different here because this isn't working. Higher self, can we ask for healing on this, our relationship together? Because we were basically going to split within weeks. It was getting so bad. And I didn't want to do that because I knew there was something greater for him. And so with that working with that ability to start coming in the back door, talking with his higher self, asking him in a realm of when you're vacuuming, saying, okay, I'm going to need some help with this soon. Hey, babe, I really have to go do something real quick. Can you finish vacuuming, let's say this corner of the room? Start getting him practicing becoming stronger. These are all actions. And Regan, do you have something that you can add into this?
Well, I've had people in similar circumstances in relationship issues, and during a life between lives session where they go deep into trance, they find themselves in the afterlife. We found that we always have a higher part of ourselves that's there. In other words, when we decide to be born, we don't put all of our soul energy into our bodies. So there's a higher self. So when people are there, they can talk to, like she would be able to actually have a conversation with the higher part of her husband and say, hey, what's up? What's the depression all about? But the main thing that a counsel there, she could go before counsel on the other side. She can ask the counsel, am I doing everything that I should be doing for him? Or do I need to let him be? Or, because some people think that they have to change a person. And I've had a lot of times where they'll say, no, that person is going through their own turmoil or anything, and you could just step aside and not just have to let them deal with their issue. But in a relationship, when it causes so much problems because you're having to live with that person and do everything, that's when I think, Natasha, that there has to be some change. I mean, just the beginning point would be, like you said, maybe talk inwardly, kind of pray or talk to his higher self, and energetically, maybe that'll get through to him a bit. The other thing in a good relationship, if it could come to a point when he's in a good enough place, is to sit down and have a loving conversation and say, look, I know you're depressed and all this, but we got to get you, would you be willing to help our relationship by getting some help? And it sounds like if he dealt with whatever's causing him the depression and everything, and to try to do, there are some skills out there that can really, really help a person get through that and to lessen the anxiety, some actual skills they can learn that are easy to learn that I teach. They can start moving in a different direction. But if something doesn't change, if she doesn't say something to him, nothing is just going to go on and on and on and on and on and on.
That's when the passive aggressive stuff comes in, or that passive energy comes in. And that's not healthy for any relationship.
Here, just as she could just go to him and say, sweetheart, I love you so much, and I feel so bad for your depression, everything like that, but it's kind of causing a lot of issues in our relationship, and just say, what do you think we can do about this, sweetheart? And just open the conversation, kind of put it in his thing. And then as he begins to talk, you can say, what about, getting a little therapy or something, or if he's going to be depressed on that, change some of the dynamics. Say, look, I know you're depressed and all that, but I can't be doing everything here. Which of these things would you be willing to help with, even though you're feeling depressed on that? Just something to start a change, to start a dialogue, and that'll sometimes lead to bigger things. But you got to start somewhere, and you could do it in a loving way.
Yep. And the thing is don't look for anything to come back from it. If we look for someone to answer in a certain way, or we're never going to get it. It's being open enough to receive whatever is to be coming. Because I can tell you, if I had if my expectations of my husband getting sober, that was 6 months after he was sober. We've been now married. Now he's been almost 10 years, and I can tell you he's 1,000 times more open and more loving than I ever thought he could be, because I didn't put expectations on it or on what he was trying to talk to me about. Ashton, you have a comment that you would like to give, because you look like you have some.
No, it's just like making me think of so many things. Like you're like, I think you're just resonating with a lot of people right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because we all are going through something. And like I tell you, right now, we just had a powerful full moon last week. We're going through this the last time that we had the same energy with Pluto that's going to be coming in tomorrow, Rome fell.
Oh. Oh boy, I wonder about Ukraine and Russia. That's maybe.
I'm asking for healing on this. I'm sending lots of love, because love is the only thing that can work on hate. So with that, what in our personal lives are shaking us up to become our greater selves? Now, Rome fell, yeah, but did something great happen out of that? I wasn't there. I mean, yeah, I was there, but I don't know what really happened, So with that if we hold the energy of greaterness, things change. And right now we have the opportunity. And this thing over in Ukraine, to me, has that same energy that happened when Kennedy and Russia.
Oh, yeah. The Cuban Missile Crisis.
The Cuban Missile Crisis has the same energy, and we have an opportunity to send love to it. Now, I know a lot of people are asking for praying for this, but we got to be careful how we pray. We can't pray for things to stop. Okay, it's like trying to stop a hurricane. What happened? We asked one of those hurricanes to stop. It stopped over Haiti for 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so with that, ask it to transform to its greater good. Ask for it. It's almost like what is that? The karate that you don't necessarily stop the punch. You help the punch move through.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Judo. So you help the punch move through. So that's what I'm asking this energy to be. Move through to its greater good, its greater opportunity. Did that hawk flying, did it stop and try to fight the crows? It kept flying on to its destination. Let the crows have its own problem. He just kept flying. Bye, Sue. Thank you for watching. We're at the hour, by the way.
Oh.
It's just one of those moments, and we like to keep the show at an hour, and we may go over just a few minutes here tonight, but because we're at this big change, what can we do with it? I'm asking, what can we do with it?
Yeah.
We can ask for healing on it. We can ask for love to come to it, to transform it.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next month. Ashton, too. I know we're getting close to the end of the hour, but did you mention someone? Have you had someone that you've lost that you grieve over still, that you miss?
Oh, yeah. Oh, very often.
That happens.
Yeah. I don't know. I know Natasha has helped me so much with, like I say, my former wife that passed away a couple months ago, and Natasha was able to access what was going on, and it did some healing for me, as far as I still feel bad that she passed away and everything, because we had 20 years together, but sometimes it just feels like it took the sting out of the grief,
out of the expectation of the wants.
Yeah. So who was it that you lost because I could see in your face and everything that it's sad still, very sad.
Oh, yeah. It's been almost 11 years and I can't even think of
It's
it.
wow. Okay, I can feel it.
Yeah. My love is with you, by the way. My love is with
Thank
you.
you.
Grief doesn't have a timeline.
No,
It doesn't have a timeline.
and I never knew that until now. But even through, losing family members, grandparents, great aunts, great uncles, I have just never experienced such a deep sense of loss. He was one of my best friends, and through, we'd known each other since elementary school and middle school and thick as thieves in high school. And, in our early 20s, I moved a few hours away and we were still just as close and hung out all the time when we were in each other's towns. And he passed really unexpectedly. And, I still, his birthday was just a couple days after Christmas, and the anniversary of his death is coming up in a couple of weeks. So it's always like this time between Christmas and St. Patrick's Day. That's the day we lost him, that I feel it so much more at this time. And, I'm always just wondering, because his death, honestly, I think the reason why I get so emotional so quickly about it is because him dying changed the trajectory of my entire life. I wouldn't be in California. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have finished college. I really think if his death and losing him hadn't shaken me to my core, I wouldn't have set into motion the things that happened to turn my life into what it is now. I think I'd still be in small town Indiana, working in a factory, not making much of myself like so many people I went to school with still are.
And I can tell you, after I lost my my mother and my father and my uncle all within just a couple years, that's the same idea. My husband says, "You're not the same woman you married." I married. I used to be shy and quiet, wouldn't say anything. Am I that person anymore? No. So with that's what grief is for. And I mean this with love. That's what grief is. Sorry, Regan. That's what grief is for. It's to shake us up so that we can come through the sifter. Literally, we get pulled through the sifter, the sifter, the noodle sifter, through the sifter, and we get pulled through it to be a cleaner self of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I can tell you the reason why it hit you so hard. I have come to this conclusion that if you picture, like when you cut a tree open and there's the rings of the tree on the inside of the tree that shows how many years, that our soul families are like that ring. Okay. You too. And the further out those rings are the ones that are the further out that our friendships are. That, yeah, I know you, but I don't know you type of feeling. They're the rings on the further out tree of the ring of the outer part of the tree. But the ones that mean the more to us come into the center. You two were like the fourth and fifth ring out. So you two were soul families. This is not your first family together. This is not your first lifetime together. You have spent many lifetimes. I actually see you as both being fays in the Fae kingdom together. That you've spent a lot of lifetimes together. Okay, so that's why he was so impactful, is because your soul ached for this lack of physicality. It wasn't just your body aching. It was your soul aching too, because of that connection. That when you have two people who have the same soul family, that close, you're each other's energy field in this lifetime. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Same story with my dad. When my dad left, I felt like the balloon got taken out of me until I learned how to have my own soul energy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He's in a good place. He's actually become one of your guides once in a while. He's returned, I feel like, in a way, because he... Okay, so I have an understanding. If you think of it like a dog, we're not dogs, but if you think of a dog, how they can be Heinz 57, that's our souls a lot of times. So he had a lot of fae energy in him, a lot of fairy energy in him. That's why he was so fun sometimes, right? Was he
Mhm.
spontaneous? Was very giggly, happy, movable?
Always.
Yeah. So he was part fae. So he actually is one of those fairies that flitters around for you in your ear and whispers things for you.
Wow.
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 Okay. He transformed quickly because his soul had a knowing. His soul had a knowing. So his soul has, you two are very old souls. He's an older soul than you by several lifetimes, but yet you two are both old souls. That's why you maneuver through life like you do. You don't stick very well. You don't stick into stickiness very much because you're able to move through it because you understand somewhere in you that there's a bigger picture here, right?
Mhm.
So with and that's why he transformed into being more the fae, back to be the fae, because he wanted to not leave you.
Hmm.
He didn't want to leave you alone.
Yeah.
So listen to those little whispers when they come.
Hmm.
He doesn't stay around you all the time because of the fact that it's not healthy for our loved ones to stay with us all the time, because otherwise we start feeling zapped. But yet he is around you, helping you. He's actually going to help you a lot through this move. And so watch the dominoes fall into
Okay.
the right place. Okay. And if they don't, check in, go. And then all you have to do is say, what's going on here? Where do I need to go now? Okay. So that you can feel that domino falling again. Because
Mhm.
sometimes the dominoes get off a little bit and we have to reset them again. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
that's why it hurts so bad, is because you guys were in the same soul family
Mhm.
and your soul ached.
Yeah. It still
Yeah.
does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometime, Ashton, if before you leave back there, you want to do a life between life session in a deep, deep trance, you'll actually come face to face with him and you can have a conversation
Wow.
and see him, actually see him and feel his energy again. Because I have that with my clients all the time, the people that have passed on, and they're able to have conversations with them. And it's so healing and uplifting. Still sad though, because you wish they were in this realm, because they're not as accessible,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Exactly. I can't listen to my mom's recording on the answering machine. I still can't. And she
yeah,
passed away over 20 years ago. Light a candle. Do something that is physical to honor that moment.
Mhm.
And that will help transform. And it's okay that you feel it like it was yesterday.
Mhm.
yeah,
Honor
grief.
that feeling, honor that moment. And then, like for me, a lot of times when the anniversary of losing my dad and my family, a lot of times that night I'll turn on the Hallmark movies and I'll cry and I'll just have a moment. And then the next morning I'll wake up and say, okay, we had our moment. I honor you. We're still here in this energy of sadness, but we got to move on. We're going to move on.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah,
going to do the better we can.
it
Honor
just
it and then move it on. Honor it, move it on. Honor it, ma'am. It's that transforming it. It's that moving it. Things don't leave us. We just, it's that transforming it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I always make sure to have a drink of his favorite drink or go. I despise Applebee's. I hate it, but he loved the quesadilla burger there. So usually around his birthday every year, I'll go and make sure I get me a quesadilla burger. So,
That's really nice.
but I hate Applebee's, but he loved it. So,
Well, just
Well, and too, and he says it's okay if you get what you like and you order it and just put a place for him.
okay.
Okay. I do that at like Thanksgiving, and sometimes when we're doing major dinners, is I put a plate and I
Mhm.
actually serve the plate up. I know that's
wow.
weird, but for some people, but I do honor my family just kind of looks at me, but they understand I'm weird. But I honor the family that's not there. And sometimes I'll hear, I know you don't like peas, but I want them. And so I'll put peas on them because they're not on my plate, but they want them.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit different because I do hear them cleaner than a lot of, that's the difference between you and me is I just hear things cleaner.
Mhm.
That, but it's doing those things to honor.
Mhm.
Just like I do things for Samedi Baron, on Halloween, because that's the spirit of Halloween is Samedi Baron. He's the Cajun, he's the skeleton that you see walking around in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
He's the person he's the spirit of death on this side. I work with Azrael, who's the spirit of death on the other side, and takes people home. He's the one that says she's not allowed to be available all the time. Thank you.
Wow.
Azrael or Samedi Baron is. So with that as we're going through life, and then thank you for honoring yourself.
Yeah.
And honoring that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's a moment. It is a moment. And it like my dad, he passed away. Let's see, my kid is 28 years ago. Sometimes it feels like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it will. And it seems like when we lose family, we circle back around grieving somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my cat. I grieved my dad, my mom, and my uncle. You know what I mean? And my cat. Because it's that circling around. We circle
Mm-hmm.
around, and that's okay. That's why sometimes I just sat down and have a ball fest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I recently went back to our hometown in Indiana for losing somebody else, and completely unrelated. She was much older, and somehow I found myself crying over him. And so it makes a lot of sense to it just feels good to have that validated, because
Yes.
sometimes I didn't want to, sometimes it's hard. You don't want to be the person, talking about how much something still hurts, 10, 11 years later, because you don't want somebody looking at you like, why are you still crying over that? But it's just so weird how at certain points in time in the last 11 years almost, that it feels just as fresh as the day that it happened. And, like I said, I think it just was so impactful for me, because it really did for me what I needed it to do. And it's hard to see, because there were other people in our friend group who it had the opposite effect. They still, kept doing drugs, kept drinking, kept not making good choices. And half of them work in a trailer factory and don't have a pot to piss in,
Because of the fact that they did not listen to what grief was supposed to help them with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not their life path.
Yeah.
It's not their life path this time. Maybe that's what they're supposed to learn is how to be in that state of mind in this lifetime. I can't judge somebody on making that path, because I don't know. Some people in this lifetime, they chose the lessons that being somebody on a street person living on the streets. That's what they were supposed to learn in this lifetime. Some people are kings and queens, and that's what they were supposed to learn in this lifetime. So with that, I cannot judge how people, it saddens me. I ache for them because I can see them doing better. And maybe at some point in time, they may get the aha moment. And like he says, let bygones be let bygones. That wasn't your path. Okay. And that's the thing it's honoring the moments when grief hits us, but we have to remember that today is a day that we need to live our lives also. So it's becoming partners with grief. It's not necessarily saying it's gone, but I call it a walkable grief. We become partners with the grief, because if we stay in that oh my God moment and can't see where we're at, that's when grief becomes there again, falling into that hole, like Lisa was saying about how her husband has fallen into the chronic pain and depression. And depression and pain go hand in hand. Pain and depression go hand in hand, and it's painful. So with that, it's that falling down into that. And if we can kind of at least get some kind of walkable with our grief, that's where we're supposed to be. I carry grief right here. It's one of my partners in life. It teaches me a lot every day, because sometimes I can't go to the grocery store like I want to. Well, that's a grief moment. But I know that it's my friend, and it's here to teach me. But that's why I treat my emotions. They're like my best friend, and they're here in my ear all the time. Hey, anger, what are you doing? Why are you here? You know, that's how I treat my emotions.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
helps. It helps because then anger is a partner with me instead of in control.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have
Well,
gone way over, and I
yeah.
don't want to cut this conversation off yet. It's getting dinner time for a lot of people,
Yeah.
or I know for a couple people who are maybe on the West Coast, East Coast, need to go to bed. So,
Yeah, and Ashton, thanks for being on the show today. You added a lot to this, and see, just what you did, and other people seeing that will help people that are going through similar things,
Yeah.
and they'll realize that their departed ones, they're just in the next room. There's just like a wall between. I mean, they're that close, really. And that's what we found out in the afterlife research. You know that they're that when you talk to him, talk to him as if he's still alive, because he's there and he hears you. He'll get your message. And even if he's reincarnated again, there's always a part of him there. See, so he could be somebody else now. He could have come back, but the part of himself that's always there is always accessible. Since you guys were close. So more than likely, when you pass here, you'll be reunited with him, and you guys can go out and have a burger somewhere in heaven, and you can say, "Hey, what do we want to do in the next life? Let's go do this. This will
and
be
actually,
fun."
you will talk that way. By the way,
Yeah.
what do you want to do in this lifetime? Because you'll be more partners coming in again. You may
Yeah.
not be romantic partners. A lot of times, like for me, my dad, kind of on the same ring. We don't become romantic partners very often. We become more partners like mother-daughter, father-son. We're more in communion together than we are in romantic communion together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So allowing that moment, but there's a part of our brain that says, I physically can't hear them anymore. I physically can't hug them anymore. And that's that part of our brain to honor, those moments of grief.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I'll just, anybody wants to get a hold of me, go to visittheafterlife.com. There's some videos on there about this beautiful process of that we have fine-tuned over 40 years that allows people to visit heaven for a few hours and come back. So lots of information there, giving away a free book on there about all the current research on the afterlife. It's called Reincarnation is Real, and it's for free ebook. I'll send anybody that goes to visittheafterlife.com. And of course, I'm here for regular therapy too. Zoom works really good for regular therapy, for depression, for fears and phobias, for anxiety. A lot of skills that can be learned that can help reduce that a lot. So visit theafterlife.com. I'll be here if you need me. What about you now, Natasha? Where can they reach you?
You can reach me at angelicclarifications.com. And Lisa, I do hope that this helped you with maybe some tools to get through these moments of your life. And thank you for being here, by the way. Thank you all for being here who've been watching. This makes my heart smile, because this is my life calling, is to be one to support people, to bring light into darkness, to give words to a feeling sometimes we can't. Sometimes I'm talking to my emotion that's and there's no words to it. And I talk to it like that, hey, blah, how can I help you? So knowing that there's no judgments here with me, I am who I am, and I would love to help you. You can go to angelicclarifications.com to schedule or to look at more about what I do, because I'm also a Feng Shui artist. I also do house clearings. I actually helped a kid clear their house when I was on the playground one day. So I can do a lot of different things. So blessings with you and your journey. Please come and watch Regan and I Mondays at 4:00 Pacific time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you're watching on one of those platforms, please like it or subscribe. And I'm on Wednesday, I will be talking about how sometimes we stop ourselves from moving forward. So that's going to be my conversation on Wednesday at 4:00 Pacific time on the same stations and places. So blessings to you on your journey. Have a great night. Stick around, okay, Ashton?
Okay.
Yeah. See you later.